You know, when we think about the most important life skills we want to teach our kids, things like reading or being kind, they're usually right at the top of the list. But what about money? It's a topic a lot of parents kind of shy away from. But honestly, it's one of the most critical lessons they'll ever learn for their future. So let's dive in.
So what's with this number, 7? What's so important about it? Well, for parents, this number represents a super important window of opportunity, one that, frankly, most of us have no idea even exists. That's right. A huge study from the University of Cambridge found that a child's core money habits, the really foundational stuff like saving and delayed gratification, are pretty much set by age 7, by second grade. Which just goes to show you, starting these conversations early isn't just a nice idea, it's absolutely essential. Okay, so where do you even begin? Well, the very first step is just recognizing your role in all of this. Because you are, without a doubt, your child's first and most powerful money teacher, period. I mean, think about it. From the moment they're toddlers, they are watching everything. They're little sponges. They don't just hear what you say, they see how you act. They see you swiping a card at the grocery store. They hear the tone in your voice when you talk about bills. They are absorbing the values you model every single day.
And here's the good news. You don't have to be some kind of financial genius to do this right. Not at all. It really just boils down to 3 simple, powerful ideas. Get involved, keep your messages simple, and use everyday life as your classroom.
Oh, this is such a great example of how one tiny shift in your language can completely change the lesson. Saying we can't afford that makes a kid feel like money is scarce and stressful. But reframing it as, that's not how we choose to spend our money, that teaches them about priorities, about making empowered choices. It shifts the whole focus from we don't have enough to this is what we value.
And it's not just the words you use. Kids are emotional detectives. They pick up on the vibe around money in your house. So if you're always stressed or secretive when you talk about finances, they learn that money is something to be afraid of. But if you're calm and open, you teach them that money is just a tool, something you can manage without fear.
All right, let's get practical. We've talked about the mindset, so now let's talk about the actual tools you can use to take money from this abstract idea and make it real for your kids. First up, allowance. Now, a lot of us grew up with allowance being tied to chores, right? But what experts are saying now is try to think about it a little differently. If you frame allowance as a teaching tool and you separate it from their regular chores like making the bed, it becomes this consistent, reliable opportunity for them to practice. Their income doesn't disappear just because they had a bad week, which makes it a much better learning experience.
So, what do they do with that allowance? Well, this is where a super simple framework called the GISS method comes in handy. It's awesome. It teaches kids the 4 main things money can do. You can give it, invest it, save it, and spend it. It just immediately shows them that money isn't just for buying more stuff.
And for younger kids, you have to make this physical. I mean, we live in a world of tapping cards and one-click buying. Money is basically invisible. So using actual cash and clear jars for each of those categories, give, invest, save, spend, it makes it all visual. It's concrete. They can literally watch their save jar fill up and their spend jar get empty.
And each one of those jars teaches a totally different but equally valuable lesson. The save jar is all about patience, about working toward a big goal, which is a huge indicator of future success. And the spend jar, that's the lab for learning about consequences. Trust me, it is so much better for them to feel buyer's remorse over a cheap toy now than a car they can't afford when they're 20.
And look, this isn't just some cute parenting trick. This whole hands-on approach, it lines up perfectly with the principles laid out by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It builds the actual skills and the internal motivation they need to handle money well later in life.
Okay, this brings us to a really tricky topic. This is something parents and even the experts really argue about. How much should we actually be sharing with our kids about our own money situation? It's a huge question, right? It sparks so much debate. Do you tell them how much you make? Do you talk about your mortgage or your debt? I mean, where is the line between educating them and just plain stressing them out with adult problems?
And you know what? There are 2 really valid sides to this. You've got one camp of parents who say, no way. Sharing specific numbers will either give them anxiety or make them feel entitled. But then the other side says, wait a minute, we have to be open. How else will they be prepared for the real world and avoid the mistakes we made? Both good points.
So the takeaway here isn't that one side is right and one is wrong, is that there is no single right answer. It's really about finding the right balance of education and protection that feels authentic to your family and your values.
All right,
Let's start to tie all of this together. All these little lessons we teach when they're young, the jars, the language we use, they're all just building blocks for this much bigger long-term goal, raising financially capable, independent adults.
And this whole thing evolves as they get older, of course. It starts with a small, regular allowance around 5 or 6. Then by 7 or so, you can start offering extra jobs for extra cash. Then when they hit 10 or 11, maybe you increase their allowance, but you also increase the responsibilities. And by the time they're teens, you can introduce them to modern tools like a prepaid debit card so they can learn to manage money in the digital world.
And this right here, this is the whole point. This is why we do it. The CFPP puts it perfectly. The ultimate goal isn't just to teach kids how to be good with money. It's to help them achieve financial well-being, which is really just having the security and the freedom of choice to build the life they truly want.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question to really mull over. When all the lessons about saving and spending are done, what is the one single most important belief or feeling about money that you hope your child carries with them for the rest of their life?